Call to order the June 10th meeting of the Cary Town Council. And at this time, I'll recognize Councilmember Bush for our ceremonial opening.
Thank you, Mayor. There are a number of events this month and a number of recognitions, but there's one that I don't think gets enough recognition as it rightly deserves, and that's Juneteenth. Now, Juneteenth happens on Wednesday, June 19th, which is now, by the way, a federal holiday. And in fact, it's sometimes called National Freedom Day or Emancipation Day, Juneteenth Independence Day. But here's why. And I don't know about the rest of you, but we did not learn about this when I was in high school. The history of Juneteenth actually dates back to June 19th, 1865, when Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, to announce the end of the Civil War. Now, what you might not realize is that's 2.5 years after January 1st of 1865, where President Lincoln actually signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. So the delay in this information, the 2.5 years it took for folks in Texas to be actually told, the enslaved folks of Texas, to be actually told that they were free, was quite remarkable, that they were enslaved for an additional 2.5 years. And when the general declared that all slaves are free, it actually remarked and made a huge monumental step towards justice and equality. Now, Juneteenth is not just a celebration of freedom beyond the physical bonds that the enslaved folks were encased to, but also a powerful reminder of the long and difficult journey towards civil rights and social justice in our country. It really serves as a truly poignant reflection on our past. It is part of our history, and it really brings to mind the resilience and courage of those who fought for freedom and the ongoing struggle. So in Cary, our Juneteenth celebration, it's not on the 19th, it's actually on Saturday, June 15th, from 1 to 7 in our downtown Cary Park. And there'll be music, as there should be, food trucks, celebrations, vendors, and more. And I hope that you will come and learn a little bit more, explore the past, explore our history, and share the joy of what is often called our second Independence Day. And with that, I ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Bush. We'll now move to our next item on the agenda, which is the motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That takes us to recognitions, reports, and presentations. And we are at the Pride Proclamation, and I'll invite Councilmember Bush to meet Human Relations, Inclusion, and Diversity Task Force, that's a mouthful for me, Chair Susie Silver at the podium for a special presentation.
Well, as for those of you who do not know, not only is it Juneteenth this month, but it's also Pride Month. And with that, we have a proclamation, which is so fun to read. So, whereas the month of June is widely recognized as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month, a time dedicated to acknowledging, celebrating, and reflecting on the significant impact and contributions of the LGBTQIA+ community worldwide. And whereas Cary is dedicated to fostering a diverse, equitable, and inclusive workplace and community where everyone feels valued, supported, and empowered to be their true and best selves. The rich tapestry of backgrounds and lived experiences within our community enhance Cary as a wonderful place to live, work, visit, enjoy, and raise a family. And whereas Cary has established and chosen to continue the work of the Human Relations, Inclusion, and Diversity Task Force to improve the quality of life and a sense of belonging in our community by encouraging mutual understanding and respect amongst all people as it transitions to a permanent advisory board to the council. And whereas over the years, Cary has furthered its commitment to providing inclusive services to the LGBTQIA community with our participation in the Human Rights Campaign, Municipal Equality Index, and with the adoption of the non-discrimination resolution policy, and adoption and participation in both of these initiatives Cary's intent on removing barriers that prevent individuals from reaching their full potential and being their true and best selves. And whereas our community will celebrate Pride Month in Cary by recognizing the history of PFLAG in Cary through the Sally Zummbach story, along with other events, including the Pride Cary Night Market, Pride in the Park Picnic, Allies and Icons Pride Film Festival, art exhibits, Downtown Pride Light Show, and the Family Pride Ride. And now, I, Lori Bush, on behalf of Harold Weinbrack Jr., Mayor of Cary, and on behalf of the entire Cary Council, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2024 as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month in Cary in celebration of diversity, unity, freedom, and acceptance, and reaffirming our support and building on progress towards a better, more inclusive, more welcoming, and safer Cary for all. So our chair of the HRID task force is here, which is now becoming a permanent Cary board, Susie Silver, and I thought it might be great to see if you would like to make some remarks.
When do I not like to make remarks if people know me? I just wanted to first thank council and all of the leaders and community members here this evening. This incredible honor. This is work I have been dedicated to for a very, very long time. It's an honor to have a space to lead in Cary, to see all of the progress of so many in this room and not in this room. And the bottom line, it's who I am. It's a safe place for us. And my family is here with me this evening. We are proud citizens. I taught in Cary for 18 years and only continue to do what we hope is impactful work and represent our community to the highest of our ability with inclusion and equity and kindness. And this is a huge honor, and I just wanted to say thank you very much from the bottom of my heart.
So I want to thank you as well. I don't know if I told you this story or not. When we interviewed candidates for the task force, I think our initial goal was to have fewer task force members, right, Lori? I think so. And we interviewed all of you, and you are all amazing. And we're like, I've got nothing. I can't cut anything, anybody. And you haven't disappointed. I've been to the meetings, and your leadership is incredible. And the focus really isn't an agenda. It's truly a focus on inclusiveness and equality and being kind. That's all it's about. And I look forward to the great work that you and your board are going to do in the future. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing that and taking time out of your life and from your family to do that. Thank you. Okay, moving now to the manager's update. Mr. Stiegel.
Thank you, Mayor. For those here or watching remotely, I want to reiterate a few points from our weekly report about emergency medical services for Cary citizens living in Chatham County. In North Carolina, the state gives counties the sole responsibility for EMS. It is not a municipal function. Counties can decide to hire staff, contract with third parties, or a combination of the two to serve their jurisdictions. Cary's corporate limits are in 3 counties, Wake, Durham, and Chatham, and each of those counties provides EMS services in the way they deem best. Of course, our staff still works with them closely and shares our points of view, but in the end, it's the county managers and the county boards who decide the service and service level. Up until the last few months, Chatham County had mostly contracted with Wake EMS for EMS services in the Chatham portion of Cary, but Chatham's decided to go in a different direction. For the last several months, First Health has been operating part-time from Cary Fire Station 8. On July 8th, First Health will assume full primary responsibilities 24/7 Cary Chatham EMS using a fully outfitted ambulance and EMS staff, still housed at Cary Fire Station 8. Cary Fire and Police will continue responding in Cary Chatham as they do throughout Cary, and 911 calls placed in Cary Chatham will continue to be answered and processed by Cary 911. Anyone in Cary with questions may reach out to 311, and we'll put them in touch with the right people in Chatham, which is Chatham's Emergency Services Director, Steve Newt. That concludes my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stegall. Now's time for Public Speaks Out. We've included instructions for speaking at this forum online and on the printed agenda. There are 3 opportunities to participate in Public Speaks Out: through written comments, calling in, or attending in person here this evening. And if you are here in person and would like to speak, I would ask that you please take a seat highlighted and are reserved for you. Public Speaks Out speakers have 3 minutes each for their comments, and you may speak on any topic as long as it's not a public hearing, and that's to your benefit because you get more time at a public hearing. Your 3-minute time limit will be enforced, and there's a timer on the podium to help keep track of your time. It'll start off with a green light, and when there's 30 seconds remaining, it will turn to a yellow light, and when your time is expired, it'll be a flashing red light, and that's the point where I'll interrupt you, not trying to be rude, but trying to be fair to all of our speakers. I thank everyone in the audience for understanding that this is a business meeting. Please do not applaud, make remarks from your seats, or anything else that may distract from the meeting. So now is the time for Public Speaks Out, and first I'll call on the clerk to read any written comments and call on any registered speakers.
We had 5 written comments, no registered speakers. The first was from Lisa Pervetta, expressed concerns over removing the youth teen basketball from the Bond Park Community Center schedule in June, and these comments have been forwarded to staff to respond. Sharon Neal, Heather Godor, and Lisa Mead submitted comments regarding proposed Bel Canto development on Green Level West Road, expressing concerns about increased traffic congestion, advocating for enhanced pedestrian bicycle safety measures to improve accessibility and safety. Additionally, there is support for incorporating affordable housing to ensure that service workers can afford to live in the area. And an anonymous individual submitted comments about construction traffic on Old Apex Road and Maynard Road.
Okay, very good. So now's the time for Public Speaks Out, and I'll invite our first speaker forward.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. Jason Barron with Morningstar Law Group, here to address you with respect to 22 REZ04, which is the Bel Canto rezoning request. Joining me tonight are Sandy Avery and Dan Herman with Bel Canto. Appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I will be as quick as I possibly can. 3 minutes is a daunting task, especially for a lawyer. I want to share some information relative to the product type, because I know that's a question that we have gotten from a number of folks, and I just want you to know we anticipate that somewhere between 40 to 50% of all of these units will be in the studio or 1-bedroom house or 1-bedroom apartment mix. And I will tell you there's a significant cost incentive to having studios and 1-bedrooms here. And that is we have a zoning commitment requiring that 80% of the parking for pods 1 and 2 be in a structured parking facility. And the town of Cary is abundantly familiar with the cost associated with structured parking, but just to remind you, every time we add a bedroom, we add $35,000 worth of cost just for the parking space. So there is a significant financial incentive to have as many 1-bedrooms and studios as they possibly can. I also want to talk a little bit about the affordable housing condition that the town is familiar with. As you all are probably aware, I had a hand in drafting that first condition. When Bel Canto made their financial investments with respect to this property, that condition didn't exist. I know because I worked on the zoning case where that condition came about. All of their financial commitments with respect to this property predated any version of the workforce housing condition. And I note that for you because unlike structured parking, which they were abundantly aware of real early in the game because the Cary Community Plan said you gotta have structured parking, there was not a similar requirement or similar expectation associated with workforce housing. If they could offer a workforce housing condition with their lender, they would, but they cannot offer that condition. However, I think the good news is 700 units is 700 units. As recently as last week, economists with Freddie Mac noted that we're going to continue to have the housing crunch that we do until nationwide 1.5 million new units are added. And that includes 750,000 for rent units, vacant for rent units. And the reason behind that is basic macroeconomics. It's supply and demand. Right now, there is not enough supply nationwide, and those nationwide economic factors will continue to constrain the market here. And Cary's a victim of its own success. It's even harder in Cary to make those numbers work. So I want to tell you that I believe in my heart of hearts, a vote in favor of this case is a vote in favor of housing. But don't take my word for it. You can talk to Freddie Mac. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Anyone else for Public Speaks Out?
Good evening, Mayor and fellow Town Council members. This is my first time, so please forgive me if I'm a bit nervous. I'm here to address the situation we have about the isolation of Autumnwood. So I've lived in Autumnwood for over a year now, and one major issue that I've noticed is that there is no sidewalk that can connect to any other neighborhood, and there's no crosswalk that can connect to like the central area, so that people can visit Mescalito or other areas as well. That's probably the biggest issue that we have. If that is built, it would just solve like so many problems that we have. For instance, we have like safety. Yeah, we have. Sorry, give me a second. The current problems that we have is a lack of safe pedestrian infrastructure, high volume of cars in the main road, which makes it risky, and fragmented communities due to the lack of connectivity. Some safety issues that we have is that some safety reasons for this to be built is that it would reduce the risk of pedestrian accidents. It will make it safer. And I've walked through the overgrown grass before. Whenever I have to walk through the overgrown grass, I'm either always worried about cars or something biting my foot in the grass. And it also ensures safe crossing for all ages, especially children and the elderly. More issues. We also have the economic impact in which why we should plant the sidewalk and the crossroad. Having access to safe pedestrian infrastructure such as sidewalks and crosswalks, it leads to higher property values and attracting potential home buyers. Talking about the green level West Road annexation as well, so this could like further boost this from happening. It would also promote walking and cycling, reducing reliance on motor vehicles, and I know Cary is big on being eco-friendly, and it can result in cost savings for individuals and families on transportation expenses, including fuel and maintenance. And lastly, there's also the obvious eco-friendly reasons. Cary is a town where it wants to be pedestrian-friendly, and if we do this, it could further the town's mission. It reduces carbon emissions, which makes where we live a better place. And again, it encourages walking and cycling and decreases reliance on motor vehicles, which can reduce carbon emissions. Thank you for your time, and I hope you take this into account.
Thank you. Our sidewalks, usually I don't comment, but I want to let you know that our sidewalks are determined by a certain set of criteria, and part of that criteria is citizens asking for it. So I'm going to ask staff to contact you and tell you what they know about what you're requesting, where, if it's on the list, where it is on the list, when it's likely to happen. So thank you. We don't need to have a conversation, but they'll get in touch with you. Anyone else for Public Speaks Out? All right, we'll close Public Speaks Out and move to the consent agenda, which is item 4, if you're following along. And for the benefit of people watching our meeting remotely, I'll take a moment to review consent agenda items. Please keep in mind that one vote approves all of these items. We bid award for Turquoise Creek Drive Water Main Replacement Project. Approval of updated memorandum of understanding between the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, referred to as CAMPO, Cary, and other MPO members. resolution for new installment purchase debt. 22 REC 04 Bel Canto at Green Level Destination Center PDP. 22A 07 Bel Canto at Green Level Destination Center Annex. Now, I've heard from Councilmember Bush that she would like to pull 22 REC 04 Bel Canto at Green Level Destination Center PDP and 22A 07 Bel Canto at Green Level Destination Center Annexation. So those two items will be on our, will be as discussion items. Would council members like any other items pulled from consent? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a
Second.
And a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That takes us to public hearings. Same rules apply for public hearings that apply for public speaks out with one exception. Speakers now have 5 minutes each for their comments. And our first public hearing is on the fiscal year 2025 proposed budget, and Financial Director Kimberly Branch will present the item, and we'll open up the public hearing, and council will not take action on this item this evening. Ms. Branch.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm excited to be back in front of you to hold the second and final public hearing on the fiscal year 2025 recommended budget. To highlight some of where we've been and where we're going, I have a few dates outlined here. May 2nd, we started budget discussions with Council during your Q3 meeting. May 23rd, we continued those budget discussions during a work session and participated in the first of 2 public hearings for the fiscal year 2025 recommended budget. This all brings us to tonight, where we are having our second public hearing toward the adoption of the fiscal year 2025 recommended budget, which is scheduled for June the 27th. To start us off, it is important to know what this budget does. This budget has a preliminary focus on accommodating a shift from high-growth suburb to maturing community. With this budget, we will continue to move forward on priority areas without additional expansion, and the budget continues to have a focus on keeping Cary safe and maintaining current levels for service and infrastructure. There were several factors that were considered while compiling this recommended budget. 3 that rise to the top. Sales tax is our second highest revenue generator. In the most recent years, we have recognized record highs in sales tax receipts. Unfortunately, those trends have not continued and are beginning to flatten. While costs have increased, due in part to inflation increases. Additionally, because of the rapid growth during past years, Cary has been able to invest in significant expansion, driving council priorities. Now we must shift our focus to maintaining what we have. Therefore, the fiscal year 2025 recommended budget has minimum program expansion. Let's take a big picture look at the numbers behind fiscal year 2025 recommended. The total budget, operating and capital combined, is $503 million. This is down 3.9% from this year's budget. The decline is largely due to the change you see here in capital. $119 million supports capital improvements projects identified for the year. The 29.9% decrease from the current year is due to the timing of capital allocations in transit and transportation. There are funds budgeted into this current year for multimodal, for example, that will not be completed this year, but continued into fiscal year 2025. The remaining $384 million of the total budget supports operating, which is up 8.9% when compared to this year. This increase is due to full-year cost for operating the downtown park, increased facilities maintenance, and increased debt service, to name a few. The fiscal year 2025 recommended budget includes the proposed tax rate of 32.5 cents, with 1 penny equaling $5.1 million. The solid waste fee is proposed to increase by $1 from $22 to $23 per month, with a cost recovery rate of 92%. Consistent with our financial model for the utility, there is a 3% increase in the utility rate, which is to cover increased costs necessary to provide the safe drinking water that we enjoy, environmentally responsible wastewater collection and treatment, infrastructure renewal programs, and equipment. In line with our fiscal year 2025 recommended budget and the recommended tax rate, here is a comparison of area jurisdictions and their recommended tax rates for fiscal year 2025. As you can see, Cary is highlighted here with the green bar in comparison with the other locations. So, to recap what this budget does, we are confident that it accommodates a shift from high-growth suburb to maturing community. We have less growth now in revenue, with our previous investments continuing to mature. All this change requires more maintenance in our future. With this budget, we will continue to move forward on priority areas without expansion. The budget continues to include investments in council priority areas like housing, public safety, parks, stormwater, and the environment, and it supports a continuous commitment to employees. And this budget continues to have a focus on keeping Cary safe and maintaining current levels for service and infrastructure. We will always be open to citizen input throughout the year. We have several avenues for citizens to provide input on the budget, including social media, 311, council meetings, and public hearings like tonight. As a reminder, our remaining key date is our adoption that's scheduled for June the 27th. At this time, we'll open up the floor for a public hearing. Following the public hearing, I will be here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Branch. Now is the time for the public hearing for the fiscal year 2025 budget. And first, I'll call on to the clerk to read any written comments and call on any registered speakers.
We had 13 people submit a written comment and then 1 registered speaker. Chuck Durant, George Register, Michael McDowell, Mike Thomason, Margaret Thomason, Kathy Cooper, Wendy Busby, Richard Reichow, Richard Miller, Matthew Solibaugh, Dennis Egan, Fred Kellner, and an anonymous individual submitted comments opposing the proposed 2025 Cary budget, citing a significant property tax increase and the financial burden it would place on fixed-income seniors and other residents. They are urging the town to reconsider the tax hike, suggesting instead to cut spending, explore alternative revenue sources, and adopt a more reasonable and sustainable fiscal approach. Our 1 registered speaker is John Brabender.
Hello, my name is John Brabender, and as you're aware, I was at the last meeting as well, and then since then I had met with the town's finance director just to go over some of the points I had brought up, and she has confirmed them as factual. And as a reminder, here are some of the highlights. The budget proposal is increasing residential real estate taxes by 46%. If there were no revaluation, the property tax would have raised to 0.49% to meet this year's 2025 budget. The town budget proposals have been historically poor accuracy. It's a fact, with variances up to 20% of the budget. The 25 budget is raising inflation-adjusted per capita taxes and spending by over 15%. And to me, this is the most telling issue that we've got a problem. When we dug into why this was happening, the answer is the town is increasing services, or as I referred to it, gilding the lily. As an example, the downtown park is costing us $7 million a year to operate, in addition to the debt services on it. The last budget hearing, there was much hand-wringing by the council saying the town has stopped growing and things are costing more. And I think there's little argument on that. The highlighted 25 per capita spending has increased to historic highs and is a very clear lagging metric that we are headed in the wrong direction. And yet the plan is now to ask for $560 million of high-interest debt in the fall on a vote. My father was a one-armed mill worker. My wife's father shoveled coal for a living. They taught us the value of money and how to live within our means. They taught us not to buy pretty things on credit. We all seem to agree that our little town has grown up. Now it seems time for our government to do the same and to stop spending beyond the resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Now it's time for the public speaks out, and if there is anyone in the audience that would like to speak at this public hearing, now's your opportunity. Anyone for the budget?
Hi, my name is John Price. I live in the Weatherstone neighborhood. About 11 years ago, my wife and I chose to move back to Cary just by choice. I work from home, and we love the community. During that time, since we've been here, I have done everything I can to contribute to the community. I've been a scout leader for most of that time. I've participated in the community orchestras. I love this town. This budget increase is making my wife and I have to have serious conversations about moving somewhere else, and it's heartbreaking to us. The thing I noticed was missing in the budget presentation was there was not a discussion that says this is how homeowners are going to be impacted. And I love the park. I think it's awesome. I appreciate the different things we're doing. But I think when we make those decisions, we need to seriously say, how are our members of our community going to be impacted? And that's absent fiscally in the budget. And I think it should have been discussed. And I'm fairly disappointed that it was not. And I hope we'll get to stay here, but it's questionable right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak on fiscal year 2025 budget? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Just want to let the audience know that in addition to the public hearings and the public meetings, we have work sessions on the budget where we discuss things in details. One of the tools we're going to have within the next 2 weeks is a slider to actually determine what the tax rate does exactly to your tax value. That will help. And we do discuss in detail. I would invite you to read my blog where I discussed the last work session in detail. We just finished our second work session. We have another work session next Monday where we will discuss the budget. And we're looking at all sorts of things. So we're not done. This isn't a done deal. We're going to discuss it even further. And I can tell you that for Jack, who's been here since 1989, Jennifer has been here since 1999, and I've been here since 1999. This is the toughest budget I've seen. So it's not easy. But I guarantee you this council will do our due diligence. There's not a single person on this council that's flippant or doesn't care. They all care. So just know that. Having said that, I'll open it up to other council members if they have remarks or comments to make before we move on. Okay.
Well, one thing, citizens may not be aware that all of the notes that have been prepared for us and slides that have been prepared for us that we use in our work session are public documents, and they can pull that if they're interested in getting information, because we've seen stuff that was not shown in this presentation. This is a higher level presentation.
And if I'll get a link, I can post that in my blog this week.
Yes.
And that way you can look at everything we saw.
Okay. One thing I wanted to ask is for us to, we often say reach out to 311, but there's a lot of folks that don't know what that really means. And I was hoping that maybe here we could clarify folks that have questions about the budget or want to share their thoughts on the budget. Can somebody job than I would on how to express yourself via 311 or ask a question, it's and really just give a quick overview of what it is.
So I think you did a great job in summarizing that. And that is, it's similar to 911, but it's for citizen information. So you call 311. The advocate will take your case, whatever question you have, we document it, and it will be assigned to a staff person, and we will respond how necessary.
Can someone text 311?
Not for that, for other things, like the dog park.
Not
and-
for that.
Got it.
But not
Thank
for
you.
budget.
Yes,
And also email as well, am I?
Or
correct?
tweet.
That's
Or
right. That's
Facebook
right.
post, or
let me just go back and here's some of our direct contacts. And we have a rolling budget every year, so we take these comments, not just adoption time, but throughout the year.
And one of the things, of course, I brought that up because I wanted to share that when folks do contact us via 311, that creates, when she says a case, it aggregates that information. So that gives us additional data and better insight into what people think, what the issues are, where the areas are. So I always encourage folks, when we say contact 311, to really do it. And it's really, really helpful for staff and for council when we're making decisions, so we have that information. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right. The next budget work session is on Monday, June 17th, and we will vote on the budget on Thursday, June 27th. All right, we'll move to our second public hearing, which is 24A02 Green Level West Road annexation. Principal Planner Aaron Puckett will introduce this hearing, and council may take action. Ms. Puckett.
Thank you, and good evening, council. The owners of a 4.851 acre parcel located at 3808 Green Level West Road have petitioned for annexation so that the parcel may be connected to Cary utilities. The area is contiguous to Cary's corporate limits and is within the ETJ. The property is zoned residential 40 and is currently vacant, and the applicant proposes a single detached dwelling. There is no associated rezoning or development plan. Following tonight's public hearing, council may take action on the request, and this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Puckett. Now it's time for the public hearing for 24A02 Green Level West Road annexation. I'll call on the clerk for any written comments or any registered speakers.
No written comments and no registered speakers.
If you're here attending and would like to speak at this public hearing, now is your opportunity. Anyone to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, open it up to council members for questions, comments, or even a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve annexation petition 24A02.
A second.
The motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That takes us to our third public hearing, 24A03 Terraces at West Cary. Once again, Principal Planner Aaron Puckett will introduce the hearing. Council may take action. Ms. Puckett.
Thank you. For this next item, the owners of a currently unaddressed 6.789 acre parcel located at the northwest quadrant of the intersection of NC 55 and Morrisville Parkway have petitioned for annexation so the parcel may be connected to Cary utilities to facilitate construction of up to 49 townhouses on a larger assemblage that includes 2 parcels to the south, which are already within the corporate limits. The total annexation area is 13.599 acres, which includes 6.810 acres of intervening right-of-way. The area is contiguous to Cary's corporate limits and again is within the ETJ. The property is zoned transitional residential conditional use, or TRCU, based on rezoning case 21REZ08. The associated development plan is currently under review and based on the provisions of the LDO can be approved administratively when staff determines the plan meets all LDO requirements. In accordance with the ordinance, the property must be annexed before the development plan can be approved. Following the public hearing, you may take action on the request, and this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Puckett. Now it's time for the public hearing for 24A03 Terraces at West Cary, and I'll call on our clerk for any written comments or any registered speakers.
We had 1 written comment and no registered speakers. Catherine Smith opposes the annexation, citing concerns that removing the existing trees will increase sound pollution and reduce the area's green and natural aesthetics.
Okay? If you're here tonight and would like to speak at this public hearing, now is your opportunity. Anyone to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, open it up to council members for questions or comments or a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve annexation petition 24A03.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Puckett.
Thank you.
We now move to discussion items. First discussion item is the 2024 bond referendum preliminary findings resolution. Financial Director Kimberly Branch will introduce the item, and Debt and Investment Manager Marcel Olarte. Did I say that right? No.
Marcelo Olarte.
It's not.
Thank you,
Marcelo Olarte will present the report, and council may take action. Ms. Branch.
Okay. Hello again, Mayor and Council. We are excited to be here tonight to make two official introductions. The first is the title of the upcoming proposed 2024 bond referendum. After much consideration, we've landed on Cary's Tomorrow Starts Today, which intentionally builds on the 2019 bonds titled Shaping Cary's Tomorrow. The 2024 logo also builds on the 2019 logo. We hope you like it. For this presentation tonight and my second introduction, I have with me Marcelo Olarte, the Debt and Investment Manager. I briefly introduced him to you during your Q3 meeting in May, and you've had a little time with him already this afternoon during your work session. He brings to us a wonderful history in municipal finance, serving in roles such as rating analyst, investment banker, and municipal advisor. Tonight, Marcelo will talk us through jumpstarting the legal and regulatory referendum process, which will move us closer to Cary citizens voting on and deciding whether Cary will proceed with the potential future bond financing for future capital projects. I would like to now turn it over to Marcelo to lead us through the rest of this presentation. Marcelo.
Thank you, Kimberly. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As a 13-year resident of Cary and a new member of the amazing staff here at Cary, I'm thrilled to be here tonight, and thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. Tonight's action by Council for the proposed 2024 bond referendum will be the next step as we implement the Imagine Cary Community Plan. This exciting step continues the comprehensive plan for Cary, which sets out the long-term vision, policies, and strategic actions over the next 15 to 20 years. Last month, on May 2nd, Council voted unanimously to proceed with the proposed bond referendum for $590 million of capital projects. $30 million would be directed towards housing projects within Cary, and $560 million of these projects would be for parks and recreational facilities. The middle column of this table lists out the projects, and the column all the way to the right shows the anticipated cost associated with each proposed project. You will also note that the table lists the projects according to the two separate ballots, which is how they will be presented to Cary citizens in accordance with applicable statutes. This is the preliminary proposed plan of finance and the estimated additional tax impact to cover the debt service for each bond issue for the proposed 2024 bond referendum. Working with Cary's legal counsel and financing advisors to create this preliminary plan, the proposed plan of finance for the proposed 2024 bond referendum calls for 3 different bond issues over 5 to 7 years. You will see that the estimated impact of each of the 3 bond issues is 3 cents to cover debt service, for a total of 9 cents for the proposed $590 million. The preliminary plan is to implement this over the next 5 to 7 years as required once the bonds are issued. The next slide is a summary of the primary steps towards the proposed 2024 bond referendum on November 5th. The first 2 steps have already occurred, Council unanimously voted on May 2nd to proceed with the proposed 2024 bond referendum, and on May 20th, Cary staff had a pre-application meeting regarding the proposed 2024 bond referendum with the staff of the Local Government Commission at the State Treasurer's Office. Tonight is a significant first step in a legal process that leads us to the proposed referendum on Election Day. As you can see from the key dates listed here, we will be back on June 27th and July 25th in advance of Cary citizens casting their vote for these exciting projects. In closing, before you tonight is a resolution known as the Preliminary Findings Resolution. It spells out the type and maximum amount of debt, $30 million for housing projects and $560 million for park and recreational facilities. This resolution documents that Cary follows state laws in not only debt management, but in our budgetary and fiscal management policies as well. Finally, the resolution directs staff to take necessary administrative steps to seek state approval and advertise Cary's intentions. To keep us moving forward, staff recommends council approval of the preliminary findings resolution. We are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Marcelo.
Thank you, Mayor.
Just to help the audience understand, we've been discussing a potential bond for about a year and a half. And what's on the list of projects are what we've been asked to do. And from my point of view, it's a question to the citizens. These are the things you've asked for. These are the things you said you wanted. So here's the question. Do you want to do it? And if so, this is what it cost. And that's what this fall we're asking citizens. Tell us where you want us to go, because these are the things you've asked, and here's how much it costs. It's not a hidden agenda. It's not something that I want. Actually, the pickleball center and the tennis center would be something I would enjoy, but that's, part of many things that people have asked for. So I'll open it up to my colleagues.
I'll make a few observations. In the past, when we've floated bonds, we've said things like this could result in as much as an X many cents increase, because at the time we were growing rapidly, and sometimes we brought in enough revenue that we didn't have to increase taxes to pay for that debt. But in this case, we're not saying that. We're saying if you want these projects, it will cost, and this is the amount that it will cost. The other thing that we've said in the past on occasion is when we float a bond, we say, we're asking you if you would like us to use the most financially advantageous mechanism for funding this, which is leveraging this type of debt. And in this case, we're not saying that either. We're saying, we're not doing these projects unless the citizens tell us that they want to incur the cost of taking on these projects. So it's a different type of comments and positioning than we've had in the past. So I want to make that really clear that we're literally going to the citizens and asking them, you've said that you've indicated that you're interested in these projects. Tell us whether you're so interested that you're willing to pay for this.
And just to follow up, and Marcelo, correct me if I'm wrong, general obligation bonds are the best way to fund capital projects as far as taking on debt.
That's correct.
For the citizens, do you mind explaining that so that they understand what the mayor just said?
Sure, I'd be happy to. General obligation bonds are bonds that are issued on the credit of Cary, and the way that they are paid back is through the property taxes. So the additional tax that is levied on property is then directed towards debt service. And that's why they're called general obligation, because they belong to the debt service of the taxation of Cary.
And why that is a cheaper alternative than going to the open market?
There are many ways to answer that. I would say there are a number of factors that go into cheaper debt. Cary's AAA is one. And the other is general obligation bonds have historically been the lowest option for lowest interest debt in the public markets.
Great, thank you.
Could we talk about that AAA real fast before he moves on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Were you going to ask about it?
Well, I was actually going to say something else, but if you want to add.
Well, let me ask you real fast, because we've had this conversation in our work session, and I'd like us to make sure the citizens understand, we are a AAA rated city,
Correct.
and that influences the interest rate that we can get on our debt. And can you talk to us a little bit about what has happened over the last last year or so with our fund balance that could potentially threaten our AAA status?
Well, so the AAA for the town was just affirmed within the last 12 months by all 3 rating agencies, including most recently Standard & Poor's. And
Yes.
so as a part of their analysis, they took into account our Cary's overall financial strength, and going forward, the budget that is before the council, as well as our expectations for how fiscal '24 will end.
Okay. And one of the things that we're talking about in our budget is that our general fund balance had to be lower to cover inflationary costs that were unexpected in our 2024 budget. So we're trying to use this 2025 budget and probably subsequent budgets to shore that back up so that we can maintain our AAA rating.
Right, and for other citizens who don't know that our credit score, it's basically our credit score, and it says we have a really great credit score. When you have a good credit score, you can borrow money at a significantly cheaper rate. So it just says, not just, it says that our fiscal acuity is at the highest as it can be out of all the municipalities, that AAA bond rating. The fact is that we can pay our debts comparatively. Going back to the bond question for citizens, again, what will they see on their ballot?
So that is what we will be talking about at next council meeting.
Okay. And so right now, as we talk about this, we'll have an education to help all of our citizens understand what it means. Should we agree to put this bond referendum on the ballot in November? And I'm wondering if citizens out there say, well, and they very much may think this way, well, I want the pickleball, but I don't want the garden. Or I want the garden, but I don't want pickleball. And the reason for us doing it this way is that we're putting all of the parks and facilities in one item for the referendum, and the other one is that we will have another question for housing. I don't want citizens to think that they're going to get, basically a bunch of radio dials. They get to choose the ones that they want and the ones that they don't want. We'll be asking them 2 questions, one about parks and facilities and another one about the housing bond.
Yes, there will be 2 ballot questions, that's correct.
Thank you.
I have a question. I was hoping you could, if you don't mind scooting back to that, where you had the 3 cents increments for the tax revenue. Yeah. Can you explain to me, I want to make sure I understand what that proposed tax impact is, because what I want to be clear on is, are we talking in today's dollars, or is this in future dollars? Is there an expectation of, increased valuations? Can you just give me a little color commentary so I can understand, so I can explain to folks when we talk about this, what that 3 cents, in 2027, 2029, and 2031 means?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So the reason why it says proposed debt issuance and it's a preliminary plan of finance, it's because based on current market conditions, it's impossible to predict what the future market will hold. So working with our advisors and looking at where the market is right now, this is what the estimated proposed tax impact would be for those 3 bond issues.
If nothing changed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Emphasis on estimated.
Yeah. And I'm comfortable with that being an estimated amount. I just wanted to make sure that I understood where we got to that amount. Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
I just have a comment that, Mayor, you mentioned that these projects were being discussed from 1.5 years. And I've been on council for, I think, almost 6 months now. But, I feel that the staff has done such a tremendous job, excellent job, in explaining all these projects and the priorities and taking feedback from every council member. So, there is definitely a lot of thought and time that went into the process of deciding what the projects are going to be on this bond. And it's also based on the feedback received from everyone, from the citizens. And it's what you want and what is important to you is what the town is going to focus on.
Other questions or comments? The next step is filing an application with the local government commission, and that will require a motion from this council tonight to proceed to the next step. And that is just the next step. Could you explain what happens after that if this council proceeds with the next step?
Lisa, would you like me to take that question? So, following this evening's adoption of the preliminary findings and the resolution of intent, on June 27th, we would introduce the bond orders and adopt the sworn statement. Following that, there would be a publication where we would post about the public hearing, which would be held on July 25th. And following that public hearing and the final adoption of the final resolution, we would proceed with the notification of the Board of Elections, and we would publish with the bond orders.
Very good. Thank you. So if the council is ready, I would entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll move to introduce and approve the resolution making certain findings and determinations and authorizing the filing of an application with the local government commission in connection with the proposed issuance of housing bonds and parks and recreational facilities bonds by the town of Cary, North Carolina.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, further discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Alarte.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
We now move to our last discussion item. It is two items that were pulled from the consent agenda, 22 REZ 04, Bel Canto at Green Level Destination Center, PDP, and associated annexation 24A07. This item was pulled by Ms. Bush, and before I turn it over to Ms. Bush, I'll recognize Assistant Planner Katie Dry, who will present the item, and council may take action. Ms. Dry.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Bel Canto rezoning and annexation is proposing to address two properties totaling 35 acres on Green Level West Road. The site is located in the Green Level Special Planning Area. Bel Canto is located in the dark brown Destination Center area, where the densest development is envisioned to be closest to the intersection of Green Level West Road and NC 540. Bel Canto is located on the north side of Green Level West Road between NC 540 and Beaver Dam Road. Duke Health is just to the east, and it's on a 70-acre site, and it's developing under its approved rezoning from September of 2019. Their first building opened in 2022, and in March of this year, they submitted a development plan for their second building. Veritas, just to the south, received approval through a rezoning last November, and the applicant's team met with our Development Review Committee in March of this year to discuss phasing options. The Bel Canto site is located outside of Cary's corporate limits in our ETJ. The site is presently zoned Residential 40 and Watershed Protection Overlay District. And the applicant is proposing to rezone the 35-acre site to mixed-use district with a mixed-use overlay district. An annexation petition has also been submitted for this site and is on your agenda for decision this evening. Action can be taken on both items tonight. Bel Canto has a preliminary development plan that identifies where land uses are allowed, how access and circulation will occur, as well as other zoning conditions. In terms of overall development program, Bel Canto proposes a maximum of 700 multifamily dwelling units, as well as other residential units, which it could include some age restriction uses, 100,000 square feet of office and institutional space, and 20,000 square feet of commercial space. When it comes to circulation, Bel Canto has two streets that serve as the backbone for the site. Street A, which is shown here in blue, provides eastern access to Bel Canto. Street D, which is shown in magenta, provides western access, and it curves to the north and the east to connect to Street A. And I should note that both of these streets coordinate with the adjacent developments, including Duke Health to the east, as well as Veritas to the south. Since the public hearing, the applicant has made several changes to their rezoning proposal. They have responded to an inquiry about stepping back the building height by reducing their maximum building height from 8 to 7 stories. They've increased their minimum non-residential commitment from 10,000 to 15,000 square feet. They've increased their minimum commitment for structure parking within pods 1 and 2 from 50 to 80%. The applicant has added a commitment that buildings fronting Green Level West Road will have a 75% masonry requirement along the facade facing Green Level West Road. So this means that if there's any residential-only buildings built in Pod 2, they will now be required to meet the 75% masonry requirement, which is above the LDO requirement for 35%. They've also increased the 6-foot height limitation for retaining walls within Pods 1 and 2. And they've clarified that the Green Level West streetscape buffer reduction from 50 to 30 feet also includes relief from the typical Type A buffer if Pod 2 is developed as residential only. And we should note this is consistent with the other approved developments along Green Level West Road within this destination center. Continuing on with changes, the applicant has added a playground as a list of potential amenities that could be selected for inclusion within the community gathering space for Pod 6. They've added a commitment for a conduit to be added for an additional 24 future EV spaces, and added recycling as an option to Pod 5. In staff's analysis of the Imagine Cary community plan, we found that policies from several chapters apply, including the Live, Work, Shop, Engage, and Move chapter. When we look at the Shape chapter, we note that the proposal supports a mix of uses and focuses high-density residential in strategic locations. And since the site's located within a special planning area, it also conforms to many of the recommendations within the Green Level Special Planning Area. The Planning and Zoning Board heard the case on March 25th of 2024 and found the plan to be consistent with the Imagine Cary Community Plan by a vote of 8-0. The chairman's comments on the proposal are as included now. The chairman stated that the rezoning case was approved by the Planning and Zoning Board with a 8-0 vote. Overall, this case was well received by the board. The board voted that this was consistent with the community plan. Apartments were viewed as a right fit for this area. A more urban concept fits the description called for in the community plan. Amenities offered by the developer seemed right for this location. The board chairman goes on to say, the board did offer some potential recommendations that are hoped to be worked out before reaching council, needing to fully utilize structure parking. Where will the parking be located? Should not be viewed from Green Level West Road. Can solar be added to parking structures? Would like to see additional commercial and special section for senior living. Several board members voiced concerns about potential issue if this case was not tied to the other main developments in the area. For example, what if one of the other developments did not happen? Having the area develop as one is key for overall success of one of the last open areas in Cary. This concludes the statement from the Planning and Zoning Board Chair. Following the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, there have been no changes to the case. Overall, staff finds the proposal to be consistent with the Imagine Cary Community Plan because addressing policies from the Live, Work, Shop, Engage, and Move chapters, as well as policies from the Green Level Special Planning Area, were all also noted in the staff report for this case. So this concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for any questions with your discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Try. First, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Bush, who asked for this item to be pulled.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a couple of questions because there have been some comments made with respect to things that have a potential to be here, and then the applicant came and made some comments about size of the apartments and studio and that sort of thing. Can the number or types of units, the number of bedrooms, studios, et cetera, that were promised by the applicant be part of a condition rather than a promise?
Yes, they could be added as a condition. Currently, there's not a condition to commit to certain types of units within this case.
So we could, in order to ensure, always taking the mayor's comments of what's our worst case scenario, what could happen if it was sold or whatever, those are those comments that the applicant made, are they currently in a condition?
They're currently not in a condition.
Right. And also, there was a comment about the connection to the Greenway. Is that the Bachelor Branch Greenway?
Yes, that's correct.
And is there a commitment to do some of that Greenway as well?
Yes, that's correct. They are proposing to build the portion within their site.
Right, and art at the, along the,
Yes.
that's fantastic. And there was also a comment about including age restriction uses. Is there a commitment or condition around that?
So currently, the application does include some age restriction conditions that could be included. Give me just a second, and I can pull up those exact
Okay.
uses.
I see the applicants there, maybe he can even help you. While you're looking that up, there were some comments about, is it Viridis? Viridis?
Viridis.
Viridis. I'm gonna get that right. Say it, yeah. And that is the, as you look at the picture, that is the development directly across the street from Green Level Restaurant, is that correct?
On the south.
On the south, on the southern side, okay. I'll just I have some comments to make, but I'll wait and see if any other council members have any questions as well.
And I do have an answer. I apologize, I just wanted to find the right
No problem.
section. So the current residential uses that are proposed include life care community, nursing home, and multifamily. So as I mentioned, there's a variety of residential uses, some of which could be age restricted, some not.
So the word you just used was could. There's no commitment, though. There's no condition associated with their age restriction. It just could possibly be there,
That's correct.
right? So they could choose not to put any age restriction within that community as
That's
well.
correct.
Okay.
Can I get clarification on what you're saying? Are you asking, when you're talking about the age restriction, are you asking if some of the units would be set aside for age restriction, or is that what you're asking?
Well, there was a comment that it could have age restriction, and very often if there's an age restriction, it's itemized as a condition so that we know that there will be a certain number of units that are ready and available for the senior community. Yeah. Did I get that right? Yeah. Okay. I have some comments to make, but I'll let others, if they have any questions, weigh in.
Well, I have a pretty well thought through, but probably going to sound a little strange coming from me, perspective on this. I always like to share what was said to me in meetings when perhaps there wasn't public ears and others there listening. We don't endeavor to have private meetings that are, information that we're uncomfortable sharing. So I spoke with the applicant and the applicant's attorney. And, one of my primary reasons for asking them is, I came to this, ready to vote no. And I was ready to vote no because I wasn't wowed. Not that this wasn't a good plan, I felt like it could be better. And when I was speaking to the applicant and their attorney about this, what we started talking about was what I like to convey to people that I learned working on the master plan for aging for the state of North Carolina. This is a group that I worked with on the housing section of that plan. These were experts, and one of the primary things I heard, and one of the primary recommendations we made in this plan, we were only allowed to make 7 recommendations, right? So this is how critical this was. They want units that are smaller footprint and studio and 1 bedroom. There's an enormous need, particularly in communities that have larger populations of older people that are especially interested in downsizing and as an opportunity to age in place. So as I get the opportunities to speak to different applicants, and folks that are looking to build things here in Cary, the first thing I do is try to pitch them on helping us replace some of the modestly sized, naturally occurring affordable housing that we've lost here in Cary. Because there's a big market for it, they fill up quick, and there is a need. Now, the applicant, because of challenges with financing, told me that they just couldn't add this as a condition. They couldn't promise it. And I can assure you that I've learned from this council, I've learned that the zoning is on the land, not on the developer. I've learned that sometimes developers say something and do something very different. And I do understand that an assurance that 40 to 50% of these units are going to be smaller and thus contribute to our stock of naturally occurring affordable housing, that it's not a promise and it doesn't mean it will happen. But I'm a pretty good judge of character, and I feel comfortable that the applicant meant what they said. And so that was the thing that swayed me. The need is great. This is it's potential for hundreds of these smaller units. I'm saying this, I'm being long-winded about this to make sure that the next applicant doesn't think that I'm always going to look you in the eyes and get the warm and fuzzies. I'm not a very warm, I'm a prickly cactus when it comes to this kind of stuff. When you're talking to me about housing, that's typically where I land. But I felt like there was also a strong, I won't call it an argument, but a business case, a financial business case, that was what was in their financial best interest was to do the smaller footprint and fewer bedroom units. And Mr. Barron touched on that. The cost of structured parking alone, contributes to that. But, I shared with them that my dad always said 2 nickels is the same as a dime, and sometimes it's easier to make 2 nickels. So I'm applying that logic in this case. So I just want to state my experience with the applicant and be transparent that that's the sort of the thinking behind my decision-making process on this one.
And to follow up on yours, I think I stated this project screams affordable housing. I think that was my statement when it was at the public hearing. And I also was going to vote no. And what convinced me was the requirement that they have to have structured parking at $35,000 a bedroom. And so that turned me. What we normally hope for is 5 to 10%. What I was looking at was 50% or more. And to me, that was worth the risk. Will they get 50%? Not sure. I don't know. It goes with the land, not with the developer. To no fault of their own, they could have corporate financial issues and have to sell tomorrow. And it's all up in the air. But the same requirements will follow with that zoning, and if anybody wanted to change it, they would have to come in here. So that's what flipped me to supporting this, is I know they have a requirement for structured parking.
Well, since we're making comments, I was wanting to see if anybody else had questions. I'll tell you why I pulled it.
Okay.
And I'm glad you did, for the record.
And as much as I appreciate Mr. Barron's comments about costs and your comments about meeting with the developer and how we like to trust developers and hope that they build what they say they will build, and our desire to also have more workforce housing and more structured parking, Bel Canto came to council after Veritas. In fact, we were in the room with Veritas, Bel Canto, and Duke at the same time. Our first meetings about this development when we met all at the same time. At that time, we gave our desired request. In fact, Veritas came more than 6 months ago to us and came and did everything we asked. 100% structured parking, workforce housing with not only a percentage for 80%, but also for 60%, more EV chargers than this proposal has, more structured parking, more green infrastructures. They came first. They were here before, and they were able to make the financing work. In fact, were represented by the same Mr. Barron. So to say that this developer didn't know that structured parking and workforce housing were important to us is just not accurate. Now, every developer and every financial deal is different. In fact, Bel Canto is 5 acres longer or bigger than Verdes. So I think, from my perspective, and I'm just one vote on this council, these are two developments that are exactly across the street from each other. Both of these developments are going to be supporting the employment center that is in this destination center, which is Duke Hospital. Also, the people that support this development are very often some of the lowest income folks who support hospitals. So from my perspective, this developer knew about our workforce housing. They knew about the structured parking. In fact, the developer across the street met and exceeded all of our requests, especially green infrastructure, which is so important to this council. So I appreciate that it's good. It's at the finish line for a lot of people, and maybe it's even past the finish line. But I think there's an expectation that both of these developments should look and support and have the same requirements on them. I don't feel we should treat one developer right across the street differently than we treated the developer on the other side of the street. I think there's a consistency and a predictability associated with it. So that's why I am not supporting this development as it is.
Other comments?
So, Michelle, do you want to say something?
I do, but go ahead, I'm still writing.
Oh, may I add one more thing?
Sure, please go ahead.
Sorry about your, for us, a commitment from the developer to do studios is a condition. We have sat at this table many times and been promised many things. And if only we would have put them in as, asked the developer to put them in as conditions. Studio apartments are great. They're going to hit a whole new group of people that I hope will want to live, work, play, and raise a family there. And if this developer is committed to putting in the studio apartments, I hope that they will come back and put a condition for those studio apartments, since we know that that's allowed.
Thank you. No, that's fine. So I appreciate the transparency, Councilwoman Con Johnson. I feel like public will appreciate the knowledge with the attorney representing this case. And I've met them twice, and they have shared a lot of information about this project. In the first meeting where they presented this case, there were a lot of comments and there were a lot of feedback from different council members, and I feel that in the second meeting when I met them, they were very responsive, and they pretty much checked all the items that were asked from them. So that's a positive. From a district perspective, I feel that Destination Center is going to provide a huge economic development, for that area. And it's probably the right place to have a project like that. And I feel that, I was also pretty much on the same lines where our mayor is, where he felt he cannot support this project because of lack of affordable housing condition. But when I met with Jason, attorney representing the applicant, Jason Barron, he explained different dynamics, different perspective, and one of the things that I really appreciated was the addition of, or the builder committing to having about, I believe, 45 to 50%, I have that in my notes, for one bedroom or studio apartments. And that is kind of providing some extra choices to people who are looking to downsize or cannot afford 3-bedroom apartment, and that's a good starter home. So there are different aspects that this particular development is going to provide. Now, I understand from Councilwoman Bush's standpoint, where she comes from, And there is a certain expectation and there are certain conditions that are required. And if we do not have those, there is always a risk of losing that opportunity. And that's fair. I agree with you. But I think if I look at this project in whole scheme of things, I do feel this is a good project and it's going to add good value and provide good, affordable housing choices to people in the area. So I kind of, I started with a no and kind of changed my perspective after meeting Jason. So I think I'm pretty much, at this point, I'm thinking that this is going to be a good project, good addition for our district, for my district.
I have written so many notes and have so many things I want to say, and I've tried to think, should I narrow it down and only say a few things? But I really want the public to know how important each decision is, and anytime it doesn't feel like a clear yes or a clear no, that it's important to really think about the whys. First, I want to say I was very happy. There are so many good things about this project. Yes, we need 700 units in this area. I'm happy to see the increased structured parking, increased commitment for conduit for 24 future EV spaces. That was great to see. Looking at the Cary community plan and really thinking about the live section and making sure we have diverse price points, diverse ages, including young professionals and seniors, and this being a key area where we really want to be able to accommodate young professionals. And also within that same section of the Cary community plan, when it talks about the importance of being walkable, and it's a destination center, so shopping and dining, all of the things. Some of the comments we've gotten, and I've heard from people this week personally, making sure that we are thinking about how to get people from nearby communities over there as well. We need sidewalk extensions. We need to extend bus routes. We need to make sure, crosswalks and all those things. So all those things have been spinning in my head, and, making sure that we think through these things, as we're making the decisions. And that's not even half of it. And so thinking about, we throw around a lot, and that means different things to different people. And I have a 2-income household. If I was a single person with only one income, even with 20 years of experience and advanced degree in the field, looking at the numbers for studio apartments in Cary, I could not afford a studio apartment myself. So when we think about affordable housing, it's relative for different people. So, having studio units and 1-bedroom apartments, that does give some diversity if we knew 40 to 50% are. And what I see here is a lot of coulds and maybes in this proposal. And I would feel a lot more confident and can give an easy yes if those coulds and maybes were, yes, we will have we will have studio apartments, and yes, we will have 1-bedroom. Yes, there will be age-restricted units. Yes, there will be a playground. In a 700-unit apartment, I think we would have a playground. And that would give me a clear and easy yes. So I'm sitting here moments before voting, and I'm writing 1,000 notes and weighing options because I want what's best for Cary, as we all do. And with the Planning and Zoning Board, when they said the issue of making sure that this is developed, the 3 projects were developed as one, we have no guarantee of that either. we have projects in the works, but if one pulled out, then we have no affordable housing in the area. And, I mean, so either planning and zoning was unanimous, but their concerns haven't been addressed. I don't know that we can address that one. It's still going to be 3 projects. But also, I had another question. They mentioned solar on the parking structure. Was that addressed?
No changes have been made following the P&Z meeting.
That's all.
Those were good observations. I mean, I like your coulds and maybes. I think that's a really great phrase. So we'll probably hear that again because it's good. Yeah, I really appreciate the comments that you made. I agree with some of your concerns. The concern that I'm not as concerned about is this 3 projects acting as one, because there's been so much coordination between the 3 parties to this point. And as we've said, the zoning goes with the land. So let's say the project to the south, Verdes. We're going to mumble that forever. Verdes. The project to the south pulls out, they still have those zoning conditions in place that will mean that the person or company that purchases the land has to go through with that vision. And that does kind of raise the question about some of the conditions. I mean, I think this is a good project. I think it's the right project, the right density at the right location, and I like that. And I think that the number of units itself will help us as we keep chunking away at this affordability issue. I would have liked to have seen a condition in place. If you couldn't go with the full amount, it would have been nice to have some amount, right? 25%, 30, 35%, that the applicant could say, yeah, we'll have at least studio or 1 bedroom.
10%, even 10%.
Some
something.
amount, so that we just had that assurance that some portion would be in there, whatever that tolerance of the financing agency is. It would have been nice if we had something in there. And I really, looking at this slide 51, which is the chairman's comments, it really reveals that there are always more good ideas that come through, right? I had not thought about the not wanting to see the parking structure from Green Level West Road. And I hope that even without it being a condition, that the applicant cares so much about aesthetics and about the look and feel of the community that is being built, that they will not make the parking structure visible from Green Level West. But it's a hope. It's a could and a maybe.
And just to be transparent, I did send a note downstream to our town attorney, and asked, can we consider the fact that they said that there will be studios without a condition? Are we allowed, we often talk about the term luxury. We can't say luxury, right? And we are very careful about that. But one of the things at this table that we have to know and abide by is that we can only base our decisions on conditions, right? A promise is not a condition, right? I trust a lot of developers out there, but at the end of the day, it's about the promise equaling a commitment, equaling a condition. So if you are making if I am making, not you, if I am making this decision based on the fact that there will be 700 units, which is, of course, is a great benefit, because there'll be 1,300 units across the street, which have already been approved. But an additional 700 units, that obviously helps the supply problem, absolutely. But if we're talking about the fact that we need smaller, and that's important, right? And we're all sitting here, it needs to be a condition, or you should not consider that. Just shouldn't.
Mr. Smith, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay.
Just.
That's okay.
No,
you don't have to.
Many of you know, me in hospitals, we meet every month, so I get to talk to, I go monthly. And I love to talk to the folks there. And Michelle, you hit on a point that wasn't really brought up a lot, and maybe it's more in our court, and that's transportation. I've talked to a lot of employees, a lot of specialists, blood work and all that other stuff you have to get done when you go there. But most of them appeal to me is transportation, I think that sometimes when you have big deals, big challenges like these three, and this is what 1/3 of that, we can sometimes just get lost in the pursuit of perfect. I'd like to see a lot of the things, but I think it's up to us after whatever happens, we need to look at transportation out there. I think that's going to be critical. That falls a lot on us. And number two, there's so many components here and so much complexity. In the end, I have to kind of step back, and I think it's a good plan. Where I agree with Lori is I don't trust developers.
I didn't trust them.
I watch them closely, but I'm not concerned about the promises. I'm looking at just what has been, what is part of this plan, and from that perspective, unless there's more comment, I'll be glad to make a motion.
Well, I'd like to make one more educational comment at a high level. I think there are people in the audience that are hearing us talking about a rezoning and hearing us talking about a plan, and they don't understand the connection. I want to make sure it's very clear about this connection. To build, you have to have the plan match the zoning. So how did the plan happen? Well, the Cary citizens actually created the Cary community plan. And so it's our job to make sure that proposals that come forward to us match the Cary community plan. It's also the job of the Planning and Zoning Board to advise us if they think it matches the Cary community plan. And they said unanimously, yes, we have these concerns. And so that's part of the discussion tonight. Usually things like details, lighting or facades or all kinds of things, those are in site plans after rezonings. So what rezoning really is a type of use. So that's what we're really discussing, but we've gotten into the weeds discussing conditions that go with the type of use. And so that's what you've heard a lot of discussion about tonight. But what this really is about, does this type of use match Cary community plan? And we're about to find out, according to council. And then after that, staff will determine the details based on guidelines we have given them over the years, and they're usually very good at that. And they'll try, and those guidelines are matched to what the community wants. So that's kind of a very high-level overview of what is happening. And so far, out of the three, you've heard about three proposals. Terraces has come through and been approved. They haven't started building yet. I don't know if they've even had site plans approved or anything. So.
Yeah, they met with staff but have not had site plans approved yet.
And Duke Health, I'm not sure where they are now. So they're kind of backing off and holding off. We don't know. But they already have something on the ground. So.
Yes, they have one building in the ground and a site plan for another.
Right. And then Bel Canto, which is tonight. So those are the three players in the destination center. That is in the Cary community plan. So I hope I didn't beat that to death, but I wanted to make sure everybody understands what's actually going on. So the fact that nothing is out there doesn't mean it's not supposed to be nothing. It was designed to be a destination center.
I just wanted to share one more point of clarity. This is a different development than the one across the street. Mm-hmm. This has a significant amount of commercial space. This has a significant amount of, what's it called?
O&I? The other one has O&I.
Institutional, right? So it's not identical, and that's something that factored significantly into my thinking. But I do want to say, this is not a council that's like really solid in their decisions here. So I would urge future applicants to not have us waffling on this dais. This is not the best way to do this. It does not feel good not to be really confident about this vote. So I wanted to share that. Councilwoman Bush I agree with every darn word she said, and I'm really weirdly going with my gut a little bit here, but I just wanted to share that this is not how we want to make decisions this close.
Is it possible, like, since I know we're at the last moment and conditions have a whole timeline associated with it, is it possible for the applicant to put on paper some of the promises that were made as conditions and table it so that maybe some of the folks who are, I'm just trying, I don't know if that's where you are, but so that they would feel better about that? Is that I mean, I don't know from a timeline, is that something that, we've done it before at the last minute, but I don't know if the applicant would be
Even a minimum.
willing
Yeah.
to talk to it, because I don't want to leave it like we're guessing.
So my understanding is their financer will not allow conditions, and that's why you haven't seen them.
Is that accurate? Okay, never mind then, so no conditions.
And that's the
No
whole
conditions for
problem.
playground, for restrictions, for studio apartments, for any of the what
Age
coulds and
restriction.
I do
Age
believe,
restriction.
age restriction,
I do
any of
believe
them?
they have a playground. They increase
It's
the
not
space.
it's not a
from-
condition.
It says maybe.
It says maybe.
And I'll just note, any change in conditions at this point would require you to continue and not vote on it tonight, because we require conditions to be in writing and signed by the applicant, and we'd have to work through language, et cetera, et cetera. So
I just wanted
wouldn't
to,
be able to make a decision
I
tonight.
just wanted to give an
And my
opportunity.
understanding is win, lose, or draw, they want to vote tonight.
Okay.
So,
But
and
he's standing there.
I know.
I mean, I thought he
He's
started to
moving.
walk down.
He's
so I-
here to answer questions if we have questions of him. I think
We-
we've answered.
We did just ask a question.
Okay.
Is that?
You want a question? Ask him a question. Mr. Barron, would you please come down and answer a question?
The mayor, you summarized it well. We would appreciate a vote tonight. It's been a 4-year-long process. We believe in this plan. We think it's the right plan. We recognize it's not a perfect case. I don't think I've worked on very many of those. But we think this is the right thing for the town. We think it's the right project in the right location, and it complements well the other pieces that are moving through the process in the destination center. Thanks.
Other questions for Mr. Barron? Before we proceed with motions, it's important to understand the annexation has to come first. So I'm not going to ask you how you're going to vote. However, I will ask, if you're not going to be consistent with the annexation and the rezoning in your vote, let me know now.
Well, and Mayor, the way we've crafted the motions, if you follow the piece of paper, we'll kind of do it all together.
Okay.
And we'll see if the vote passes.
So, Mr. Smith, I believe you asked to make a motion?
I have it in front of me, so I'm going to make a motion to approve, and I move that we adopt the following documents attached to the online agenda: annexation ordinance for 22A07 and the statement of consistency for 22REZ04 and rezoning ordinance for 22REZ04. I make that in a motion.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion, further discussion. This is going to be a split vote.
Reading the options here.
This is going to be a split vote, so I'd ask for your voice vote as well as a hand vote. All in favor of the project or the proposal, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Project passes 5-2. Thank you, Ms. Dry, and thank you, council, for deliberating on this project. There's no other business scheduled this evening, so I declare this meeting adjourned.